I haven't done a reading in quite a while, but I think I'm going to do a little bit of reading from this book called Parami, Ways to Cross Life's Floods. Somebody asked me last week, they were new here, had never been here before, were interested in a book for beginners. And I chose this giant book by a meditation master in our tradition because it's a handbook for life, and it's very accessible, and it's full of just wonderful information and exercises and reflections and challenges for how to be how to be in this world that we live in. I read this book every couple of years, and it never ceases to, the information in it never ceases to strike me in new ways and be valuable from year to year. And we always seem to have numerous copies of it by some miracle. And it's available online too. But why it's sort of up for me right now is that I've been hearing this term parami a lot lately with the monastics. I'll say something like, oh, I really connect to so-and-so's teaching, or I'm excited to spend time with, Ajahn such and such. Ajahn is a Thai for teacher, and it refers to a monastic in our tradition that has been in robes for 10 years or more, typically. And what I'm hearing back is, oh yeah, he or she has a lot of parami. They have a lot of parami. And that is settling. And I've heard that years, over the years, I've heard it a lot, but it's just settling in a different way right now. They have a lot of parami. And what parami refers to are these characteristics that we can perfect over time. And if perfected and added up, essentially lead to a really happy life, really happy and peaceful and fulfilled in a way that's not dependent on conditions. They are, so this is not from the Pali Canon, the ancient teachings of the Buddha, although all of these parami are referred to, all of these characteristics to perfect are referred to in the ancient teachings. But it was sort of, let's see if this is in here. There's a bit of an explanation. Yeah, so I'll just go ahead and read that, the explanation of this list and a little bit about the list and the list itself, and then just offer a few more reflections. The vision of the Dhamma is that if the mind is healed, strengthened, and calmed, if we are no longer swept away by our ideas, doubts, plans, regrets, grudges, and phobias, to name but a few, then we can cross. How's my volume, by the way? Okay? Okay? Okay. Then we can cross the floods and, to use a Buddhist metaphor, be standing on the other shore. Whatever the analogy, such transcendence means that we're neither generating stress nor caught in stressful consequences. Accordingly, the most usual summary of the Buddha's Dhamma is that it presents four noble truths concerning suffering or stress, suffering and stress, or dukkha. So dukkha is the Pali word, and the word has a range of meanings from anguish to unsatisfactoriness. These truths present the stress and suffering as unavoidably bound up with the human condition, yet as something that has a cause. and that the cause can be eliminated, and finally, that there is a path of practices that will lead to the elimination of that stress. Like any unfolding, the elimination of stress requires care. So, in order to facilitate this, the Buddha's teaching encourages persistent strengthening, healing, and refining of mental activity. To this end, he presented themes and instructions, often in clusters, such as the 5 spiritual faculties or the 7 factors of enlightenment. The culmination of these is in meditative Dhamma practices, ones that depend on a calm and secluded context to support close examination of the mind. If this were the only scenario for the spiritual alignment of the Dhamma, it would limit the occasions in which such Dhamma could be practiced. So Dhamma, Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha, also the truth, like what is aligned with nature. And it would narrow the meaning of Dhamma to a set of meditation techniques. However, when we consider how the Buddha defined Dhamma and how he framed liberation quite broadly in terms of acknowledging and building a path out of suffering and stress, then we must also use a broader focus as a more long-term foundation for Dhamma, one which will fit the context and energies of our active life. Accordingly, a set of instructions called Parami or Paramita have become paramount in their usefulness and daily life applicability. The terms Parami and Paramita carry meanings such as furtherances or perfections and refer to cultivating skillful intentions and actions throughout the day. The reason why this set was put together some years after the Buddha's passing away seems to have been that Buddhists speculated on why one person arose in the world who surpassed all others in the depth and range of his wisdom. Many of his disciples developed qualities that the Buddha manifested and also crossed over to the other shore. But none came close to the Buddha in terms of depth, range, and versatility in presenting the Dhamma. And unlike his disciples, he realized the path without a teacher. So people reckoned that this unique person must have inherited a huge stock of strengths and virtues in the process of many lifetimes. Stories and fables were created to describe the process whereby the Buddha to be developed Parami as a foundation for his future enlightenment. Different schools of Buddhists selected different qualities to be Parami. But in the school that came to be called Theravada, that's our tradition, 10 were so designated. Theravada uses the Pali language, referring to them as Parami, whereas other schools use the classical Sanskrit language, hence Paramita. The 10 Parami are generosity, morality, renunciation, discernment or wisdom, energy, patience, truthfulness, resolve, kindness, and equanimity. These parami form a set of themes that are used in the Theravada tradition to this day. They provide a template for the mind's energies and activities that isn't an extra to all the other things we might have to do, but encompasses our talking and working, our relationships and interactions with others, our times of private introspection, our decision-making, and the forming of our life directions. When we practice morality, patience, and all or any of the rest while we are engaged at work or minding the children or stuck in a traffic jam. When it comes down to it, we practice morality, patience, and all or any of the rest when we are engaged at work, watching the kids, or stuck in a traffic jam. When it comes down to it, why not? When you're in a jam, you can either get irritable, worry, or you can practice patience. So, which is going to take you out of stress right now? You get the picture. The Parami takes spiritual practice into areas of our lives where we get confused, are subject to social pressure, and are often strongly influenced by stress or stress-forming assumptions. Providing alternative ways to orient the mind in the stream of daily events, the perfections can derail obstructive inner activities and leave the mind clear. Cultivating parami means you get to steer your life out of the floods. Floods meaning being overwhelmed by stress or suffering or frustration, aversion, greed, whatever sort of picks us up and carries us off before we even notice whatever is stronger than our resolve to be balanced in the moment. Those are the floods. This list is a wonderfully approachable. You know, there's this idea that, especially in Theravada circles, that we've got to sort out sort of the Four Noble Truths, independent origination, and all the, early texts, and you get all the words right and get all the teachings in order. And really, I can start with generosity right now if I want to be happier. And if I'm interested in making an impact on the people around me that is positive and long-lasting. I was listening to a talk. There's a Bayagiri monastery where Longpur Pasano as the guiding elder has a live stream of their chanting and meditation and talk every night. And I popped on last night to meditate and listen to the chanting and then listen to the talk. And Ajahn Yaniko said something very sweet over and over. He said, we're making history with our goodness. Yeah, we're making history with our goodness. And, what he meant by that, or what I picked up from it, was any time that we bring goodness into the world, it makes a difference. It has an impact. In our tradition, we call that, karma. So when we have good intentions that are followed by actions based on those intentions, they have inevitable results. And if they're good intentions followed by good actions, we cannot escape those inevitable good results, the positive results. We might not see it right away for a while, might never notice the results. But what we've done by setting a good, that's a funny word. It could be defined in a lot of ways, but an intention that's imbued with a principle of goodness, a care for our well-being and the well-being of others. That's what goodness is. It's caring for our well-being and the well-being of others. And if we have intentions that have a care, that are imbued with a care for our own well-being and the well-being of others, and then we act on those intentions, here's the karma. we've started to create a habit for that to happen again and again and again and again. And every time we act on our good intentions, that habit gets stronger, and pretty soon we've got this sort of field of goodness that we're carrying around with us everywhere, and it's touching everyone that we come in contact with. And those are the inevitable results. So we don't have to think of karma in terms of like, having a good idea, doing something good, and then watching the good blossom in the world, because we know it's not that easy. I do all kinds of good things, I think, that sort of fall flat in the moment. Or, the recipient of my brilliantly good intentions and idea and action thinks it was just a bunch of hogwash. No, thank you. It happens all the time, you know? We offer a gift and it's not picked up. It's okay. If the intentions are good, if they're for our well-being and the well-being of others, and we act on those intentions, then we're building the habit to do it again. And that's the karma. That's actually the result. And then the result plays out in ways that we can't imagine or know, according to the Buddha. And so we don't have to really have anything memorized or have any sort of deep understanding of the Dhamma or the teachings of the Buddha to get started on this path of goodness. It helps, it helps to know some of the basic teachings, the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, and the five faculties, and these sort of lists that Ajahn Sucitto was referring to, this list. But we can start anywhere, developing these characteristics of generosity, morality. Morality might be a word that's kind of heavy for you. Could we think of it as integrity? Acting in line with our own integrity, not transgressing my own integrity. So I've talked about this with people and, a number of times on Sundays, but that's how I judge whether a situation went well or not. Forget the outcome. Did I transgress my own integrity? Did I yell at somebody? Did I act out of anger? Was I impatient? Was I stingy? Was I the opposite? Did I lie? Was I unkind? So we can create a new way of judging situations that we've been in. Not did the party come off without a hitch. That's nice when it happens. But all we can control is to a degree, is our intention and the actions that follow them. So can we plan the party, attend the party, clean up the party, go to bed after the party, and look back and say, I did not transgress my own integrity. I came from goodness throughout. And that's a good way to sort of judge difficult interactions, What happened to my mind? What happened to my speech? What happened to my actions when things got difficult? Not looking at the overall outcome. Over time, sure, we want to know, are we doing things efficiently and functionally and, achieving our goals and helping our communities and, raising our families. But he's talking about, which I think is very sweet, he's talking about moment to moment, these moment to moment actions that we all have to do all day long. Can we bring to them? generosity, integrity, renunciation. What is that? What is that? Is this a a giving up? Is this a intentionally making things harder for ourselves? Is it getting rid of all the fun so we can be good? If you know me, I do not think I can get rid of all the fun. I don't think I don't think I would be able to stay on this path if it didn't feel great, if it wasn't sweet, if it didn't make me smile. But what renunciation can do for us is give us some space from things that might not be serving us. So maybe we back away a little bit from unwise people, or we back away a little bit from media that boils the heart. Or maybe we back away a little bit from second breakfast, or or whatever, whatever's dangling us in that cycle of greed, aversion, and delusion. Renunciation is just stepping back. I mean, it can be, more sophisticated than that, but one way to think of it is just stepping back and seeing how that feels and watching the mind, learning from it. What does it feel like to step back, to offer space to ourselves, to put something down and notice the results? Discernment or wisdom, our ability to look through the lens of Dhamma, think through things carefully, respond appropriately, perfecting the ability to respond appropriately in all scenarios. It is what gives me a lot of faith in multiple lives. It's going to take a while to get there. I don't know about you, but I don't think I still respond I don't think I yet respond appropriately in all scenarios, because sometimes I get flustered, or I get upset, or I get jealous, or I get angry, or I get confused, and my parami, the wisdom parami, is in process. I'm working at it. We're working at it. Patience, truthfulness. I mean, that's, the Buddha said a lot about truthfulness. Oh, he said if somebody's willing to lie, they're willing to do anything. They can't be trusted. We really want to look at truthfulness in our lives and the people around us. We want to look at whether we're being honest with others, and especially honest with ourselves. Developing the parami of truthfulness is really freeing and involves a lot of renunciation. I got to step back from this exaggeration. I got to step back from this joke. I got to step back from getting my way. I have to let it go. I have to put it down. Can I stay with what is true? What is real? And resolve, making a vow, maybe. Deciding what's important and putting that first. Developing the parami of resolve, or adhitthana, can really help us make progress on the path. It takes a lot of, he's talking about strength. It takes a lot of strength to decide what is the next right thing and follow through on it. It's not easy. Nighttime me and morning me are almost like a split personality. I have a lot of big ideas at night that morning me are going to take on. And then morning me just wants a donut, or a little extra sleep, or some chill time or whatever it is. We have when we have a good 9 hours until morning me has to be on, you know, night me can have a lot of big ideas. But resolve is sort of picking back up where we left off, bringing that strength, bringing those ideas to fruition. Kindness and equanimity. So, finding balance, the Buddha said, in all four postures, we can do that. Balanced standing, balanced walking, balanced sitting, balanced lying down. He's not talking about the body. He's talking about everywhere we are in the world and everything that we're doing, we can be doing it with balance, with equanimity, with a bigger picture in mind, with an appropriate response. And developing equanimity is tremendously difficult and tremendously important. So I just bring this up because I think the people here have a lot of parami. Anyone who's in this room right now has probably a huge amount of kindness and generosity and equanimity and honesty and patience. And it's really my honor and privilege to be in a room full of people who have a lot of parami on a regular basis, and I just feel really grateful, and that is a good thing. We can all feel that, this gratitude to be coming in contact with people who have a lot of parami and are working on these things, these perfections, these characteristics. That's no small job, and there are no small results from this work. So I think I'll leave it there. Thank you for your kind attention. Jessica snuck a thank you in there. I can live with that. So, we are getting on 11:30, but I thought I'd open it up for a few minutes, see if anybody has questions or anecdotes or how they're working with the paramis. Even if today is the first day you've ever heard of them. Yeah, we'll get you a mic so the online people can hear you, and anybody in here like me with old ears can hear you.
Thank you. I would just love to hear some words from you on your understanding of equanimity.
Yeah, my understanding of equanimity, I use the phrase the ability to bring the ability to respond appropriately in all conditions. And what that means is it's a heart feeling first, so thinking and heart, and then speech and action. And I think of equanimity in terms of the Brahma Viharas, the four divine abidings, which are metta, or loving kindness, karuna, compassion, mudita, appreciative joy, and upekkha, which is equanimity, so one of the four Brahma Viharas. And the Brahma Viharas are essentially how the heart responds appropriately when it's in balance. And so, a metta, friendliness, loving friendliness, is a natural and balanced and appropriate response to seeing the good in others. right? So I see good everywhere and here, and metta comes up. So this feeling of friendliness, delight, love, sort of a pure love just comes up naturally. Compassion is the appropriate, the balanced, the practiced response to suffering and stress. So when we see someone suffering, when we see someone stressed, when we see difficulty, and the heart's appropriate response, the heart's balanced response is compassion. The sense that, oh, that looks really hard, and how can I help without getting caught in the anger, the stress, the suffering. Compassion is really difficult because it's difficult to train the heart to become compassionate, because stress is sometimes watching somebody be a jerk, and then we don't really feel compassion for that person because they're being a jerk. But the Buddha is saying that person is suffering. So we're seeing suffering, and a balanced heart, a heart that is experiencing equanimity, feels compassion and is compelled, if possible, to help without getting caught in the jerkfulness. And then mudita, appreciative joy, so seeing the good works of others, seeing even the good fortune of others, win the lottery, clean the kitchen, mudita arises. Mudita arises. And that's a heart that's not stuck in jealousy or comparing. So the heart that has equanimity when they see the good works of others or the good fortune of others, um, the heart really opens to enjoy that. I didn't really understand at the heart level mudita until I started practicing here, because people are doing such good things here and receiving such great results that it just makes me happy. There's just this natural arising of happiness that's harder to, I think, cultivate in the world, just kind of in the world. And then equanimity is sort of something that we can cultivate, but but it's also a result. It's a result of learning how to develop friendliness, how to see goodness, how to look for goodness in other people so we can naturally feel metta, how to look for the suffering so we can naturally feel compassion, how to look for um, the 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 benefits of others' actions so we can naturally feel that appreciation, that appreciative joy. And practicing all of those things over time leads us to this feeling of equanimity. Like whatever comes up, I have a response, and that response is going to be skillful, helpful, wholesome. You're welcome.